what I wanted to continue to talk on is the series I was doing on relationships. So I want to start, this one's going to be called The Need for Friends. I want to start in Genesis 2 and verse 18. Genesis 2 and verse 18. You know, in our first couple of weeks, we have been spent talking about our relationships with ourselves. Our relationships begin with love and respect for ourselves. So Genesis 2 and 18 says, "And the Lord God said, It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him." So today I want to move into our need for friendship. From the very beginning, we were created for the purpose of relationship. You know, God did not create us to be alone. He created Adam, then He created Eve. So neither one will be alone. You know, I don't know if you are the type of person that can do a lot of things alone, whether you do or not. But when I try to do something alone, there's something inside me that says, this doesn't feel right. It's not fun to go out to eat alone. You can't even tell them how good your steak or your meal was. It's not fun to play golf alone. Nobody can say nice shot or see those holes in ones you just did. 18 in a row. Yeah, I'm dreaming. But it doesn't feel right to golf or play a sport by yourself. It's not even fun to go to an event or a conference alone. Or why would we ever think about going on vacation alone? You know, some people might do that to recharge their batteries, just to get away. But that's not really a vacation. That's just good health. So, you know, but we were created as social beings. God created us with the unbelievable ability to affect one another. We affect each other back and forth. You know, we depend upon one another for survival, for subsistence and well-being. If you're in a relationship or you're married, these things happen. We depend on it. But we need to have friends, and we need to have reaction of friendships. You know, God said it's a good thing to have friends. You know, it's not good to be alone. You know, if we look at science, we've been told over the last 2 years, follow the science. You know, science teaches that we can understand our world only in the terms of relatedness and relationships. You know, back in high school, or even if you were in college, can you remember going to the science lab where you studied how different types of atoms reacted to one another? You know, this was all about relationships. You know, in science, a lone atom by itself, it's meaningless. But a related atom is the building block of nature. In the same sense, a lone human does not affect anybody or anything and cannot be affected by others. But a related human, or a person who has many relationships, is the building block of what we call humanity. I'd like to say it this way. The person who has a lot of friends and a lot of relationships is the building block of God's church. You know, God has two purposes in creating man. Man was to affect and to be affected. We affect God, and God affects us. We affect others, and others affect us. And that's all there is. We have effect on each other. You know, you can't affect others by being alone, and vice versa. Our need for friendship is as deep as our need for food. And I need food. You know, I need friends. Do I need some of you? Yeah, we need each other in some way or form. You know, we can only survive so long without food, and ultimately we can only survive so long without friends. We need our friends, and our friends need us. You know, I logged onto the internet when I was putting this sermon together last year, and I Googled "need friends," And 0.2 of a second, there was 3.9 trillion search results. That's a lot. Then I Googled want friends. And in less than 0.2 of a second, there was 3.47 trillion search results. People are lonely today. People are looking for true friends. The world, you and I, need real friends. Even in the church, we need friends. Sometimes even in the shelter of the church, it can be very lonely. We come, we listen, and we leave. Nobody said hi. Nobody sat down and really visited with us and found out about us. We had some people that came to Big Sandy here a while back, and they just said that they're not a friendly place. Well, a lot of the people that were regulars there to go around and talk with people that weren't afraid to, most of those were gone that day. And only a couple people went up and talked to these people. So we were, to them, an unfriendly church, because we did not go up and treat them like they were the number one best friend we've ever had. People are looking for that type of relationship in our churches. Do you know that those of us who keep the teachings of the New Testament apostles are one of the greatest groups at showing ourselves friendly and entertaining people? But when it comes to one-on-one true friendships, one-on-one, we're falling far short. How many true, and I'm not trying to pick on any of you here today, how many of us, me and you, really know everyone here today? To know what they're going through. Do they like their jobs? Do they want another job? What are their goals and aspirations? Do we know that? Me not being here all the time, I'll say no, I don't. I try to talk and see and visit with people that are here, but even I fall short in the small amount of time I'm here, because I don't talk to everybody one-on-one when I'm here. We see one another at church for an hour or two, but for the most part, it doesn't go much beyond that. Sometimes it does. But this should never be. We need to have the closest friends in the church. This is our future family, or our family now, and the family of God that we have chosen to be part of. Jesus was someone who not only showed himself friendly, but he had several very close friends. I want to talk about at least 6 that I know of by my count, 6 that I can pretty much show that they were his really close friends. In John 11 and verse 5 tells us about a few of these friends. So we're going to look at 3 of them here. It says in verse 5, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus." Mary, Martha, and Lazarus were all very close friends of Jesus. When Jesus came to the city of Jerusalem, he would often stay at the home of this family. They lived in Bethany, which is only a couple miles from Jerusalem. When Jesus wanted to escape the crowds, he would sneak out of town and go to Mary and Martha's house in Bethany. This was his retreat where he relaxed and renewed himself from the pressures of life and what was going on at the time there. This family grew very close to Jesus. It was Lazarus, their brother, who Jesus raised from the dead. On one occasion, Jesus stopped by and Mary chose to sit at Jesus' feet, as we see in Luke 10:41 through 42. She sat at his feet while Martha tended to the things of the house. So Martha was upset at Mary because she was not helping. And 42 lets us know. In verse 41 it says, "And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things. But one thing is needful, and Mary has chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her." So Jesus rebuked Martha because she was interfering with what the Bible calls a needful thing. Jesus called it a good part. So what was he referring to? Jesus referring to their close friendship with another. Mary needed it, and Jesus needed it. We need friends. But Jesus had three other very close friends. Peter, James, and John were Jesus' disciples, but they were also really good and could be considered his best friends. It was these three that Jesus pulled close to himself when the going got tough. When there was trouble, he's the one that Jesus relied on. It was these three that went up to the mount with Jesus. On the mountain, they saw the cloud that overshadowed Jesus. They saw his face shining bright as the sun. They saw him talking with Moses and Elijah. Now, this was a special time for Jesus, and he chose to share this time with his three closest friends. Do we have friends that we want to share things like that with? In fact, Matthew 17:9 said that it was a secret between them. A secret. Matthew 17 and verse 9. As they came down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, "Tell this vision to no man, until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. Keep this secret until I am gone." This is between you and me. I'm trusting you not to let people know this until I'm gone. We could talk all day about the great the friendship that Jesus had with these three, and many special times he had with them. You know, I don't have time to get into it all, but for our purpose, let's say that if Jesus needed friends, then also we need friends. If Jesus needed to be able to share a few secrets with some of trusted friends, then we need to be able to do that also. And to have friends that are so close that you can tell your deepest secrets to. How many people do you trust to do that right now? To me, I think I can truthfully say maybe 3 or 4. Because I've come to the terms that godly men sometimes do ungodly things. So I have to be careful, and so do you, who we share our secrets to. Know your friendships. And the only way to do that is to jump in with both feet and to get to know somebody and let them to get to know you. There's a special time and places in every person's life that need to be shared with special people. It is a needed thing to be able to share with somebody. Proverbs 18 and 24. Proverbs 18 and verse 24. Not only do we need friends, but we must be friendly, as it tells us in verse 24 of Proverbs 18. A man that has friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. I have friends that were closer than my brothers. Both my brothers have passed. But I had, and I still do have friends that were closer than my brothers. You know, we all have close friends, yet beyond these friends, we must show ourselves friendly to everybody, not just to our friends, our close friends. And Jesus was also a great example in this. You know, he ate with publicans. He ate with sinners. He communed with the Gentiles. And he fellowshiped with the harlots. We need to condemn him for that. Get rid of him. And he befriended the sick lepers. Anybody that society would have looked down on, Jesus befriended. Are we following his example? It wasn't just the down and out. Jesus also befriended Nicodemus and Joseph, who were both very wealthy and also members of the prestigious Sanhedrin Council. These men were the elite of the very elite of Israel. In fact, Jesus was buried in the sepulcher of Joseph. Jesus also befriended a centurion of the Roman army. They were not close friends, yet Jesus was a friend to all. Because of his friendship, he was able to affect all these men and women for the sake of the gospel. We might call this networking in today's lingo, yet Jesus loved each and every one of them. Wherever Jesus went, he showed himself friendly. And again, when you see me or I see you, I need to see Jesus Christ in each one of you and in me. I need you to see that in me. To show that I'm friendly, I'm living the way. Wherever we go, whoever we talk to, at the grocery store, the gas station, the dry cleaners, we talk to the mailman, the garbage man, our co-workers that are our neighbors. We need to show ourselves friendly. Not aloof, not arrogant, not pompous, not self-righteous. Because knowing who we are, knowing we are going to be soon kings and priests in God's kingdom, doesn't give us the right to be arrogant and pompous, to be above all of our friends and all of our neighbors and people in the world. This is the only way that we're going to win people to God's way of life. I want to be like Jesus. And I know you do, don't you? I want to be friends with all people. But sometimes it's hard. Let's take a look at Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 10. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10 tells us why we need friendship for assistance and strength. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 10 says, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falls, for he has not another to help him up. You know, sometimes I'm out working on the farm, and I'll trip over a vine or something, trip over my son's feet or whatever. You know, at my age, and some of your age, it's hard to get up off the ground. And it's good to have my son or another worker there to help you up. So I'm wondering, were these all old folks? Because it's hard. I see my son fall down, and he just pops right back up. But I could help him up, but no, he didn't want my help. He's just back up. So who is going to be there when we fall? Who is going to be there when we are sick? Who is going to be there when we are broke? Only our friends and family will be there, and probably our closest and dearest friends. Let's look at Proverbs 27, verse 9. Proverbs 27, verse 9 tells us we need friendship for counsel. Proverbs 27, verse 9. Ointment and perfume rejoices the heart. So does the sweetness of a man's friends by hearty counsel. How many have found that to be true? Hearty counsel from the heart. It is only our closest friends that will tell us what they really think. Sometimes I don't want to know what my friends really think, because they're going to be truthful. They're going to tell me what they think. And it may not always be wise counsel. It may not be what we want to hear, but it will be from the heart with love. You know, there's something special about receiving counsel from somebody you have a trusted relationship with. And yes, it can hurt when they have the relationship to tell you the truth. Proverbs 27 and verse 17. We need friendship for both personal and spiritual growth. Verse 17 tells us, iron sharpens iron. So a man sharpens the countenance of his friends. Have you ever thought, when iron sharpens iron, what the process to have this iron sharpens iron? And how you have to go through the process to be forged from a piece of metal, of iron, into a sharp sword or knife. To know that you have to go through a quenching, which is heat. You got to be beaten and pounded to make sure that all the welds of the metal are all together. And then the quenching and the tempering and then the beating of the hammer to make an iron be sharpened and be grounded. It takes a lot of effort. And some of us have to go through that to be able to sharpen, be able to do that, to have iron sharpen iron. You got to go through the process to help somebody else through the process. We have heard this before, you are who you hang out with. We have also heard this, guilty by association. If we happen to be with somebody who is committing a crime, chances are we'll be charged as well, even if we feel like we were not involved. I had to sit on I got chosen, had to sit on it, on a new gang that was going through Longview, that was building, and there was five people that committed when a crime was committed. The first was robbery and break-in. The second, during the process, one of the guys pulled a pistol and shot a guy in the back of the head, which he lived and survived, and basically told who was there. One was never found again because he decided he's going to try to save himself, and he disappeared. Nobody could find him. Still has not found him. Driver's license not out there, credit cards, nothing's ever showed up on this kid again. But the one we were sitting on was a 17-year-old high school kid, senior in high school, and they were trying to pass him off because all the other pictures and different things that I went in and saw after the trial online showed the biggest thug I've ever seen. But they had him nice, cleaned up, respectful kid in a suit, to where it looks like, oh, you can't send this sweet little boy to prison. But being there, he was guilty by association, because if you're there in the presence of a crime, it's as if you did it in the state of Texas. So they were trying to prove that he didn't do this. He didn't do what they called I'm trying to remember the name of it again. They call it a Carlos, which was a drive-by to fire into the witnesses' homes. And this kid was not guilty, because he was the one that they were talking to from prison and had his phones recorded and all this kind of stuff. So, guilty by association. Who do we hang around with? It's something we have to all look at, is who our friends are. And whether you believe it is right or not, people judge you according to who you associate with. This works both ways. It works in a negative manner and it works in a positive manner. This is why we want to choose our friends wisely. Solomon said, as iron sharpens iron, so does a man sharpens the countenance of his friends. And again, how do we sharpen each other? How do we sharpen each other to be so razor sharp that nothing can come at us that we can't defend, from Satan's pulls of this world? Have you ever thought about our thinking and our attitudes, that they lead to our actions, how we think? This is also known as the universal law of attraction. This law states that we attract what we think about. If we focus on the failures and problems of this life, then that is what we attract. If we focus on being successful and a godly person, then that is what we'll attract. If we stop focusing on all the pain and wrong in this world, we might be able to succeed. Yes, we need to know that there's a lot of wrong in this world. And there's going to be wrong until Christ returns. But it stands to reason then, if we attract situations based on our thinking, then we also attract people who think like us. This works both ways. If we maintain unhealthy and toxic relationships, we will start suffering from low self-esteem. This leads into destruction thoughts and then actions, until finally that our ability to succeed is gone. And that's where a lot of our friends, sometimes they just disappear because they didn't want the relationship that we were trying to give to them. If we can change our thought process, it will lead to healthy and lasting relationships. And that's what Christ wants us to do, is to have positive and godly thoughts. If we start surrounding ourselves with people who are loving, positive, and successful, then our ability to succeed is dramatically increased. Sounds like something we all can do. Let's take a look at 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. 1 Corinthians 15, 33. What about our speech? Verse 33 of 1 Corinthians 15 says, "Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners." I want to pick on the Democratic guy that's running for governor of Texas. He was spouting off about AR-15s, and they were designed only for the Vietnam War, which now he's spewing BS or bad stuff. Anyways, he was spewing a bunch of lies and just trying to get a bunch of what I call riffraff to be stirred up with his lies. And somebody started heckling him, and he blurted out, "You mother," and he blurted out the word. And so here, trying to get the highest position in Texas, a leader, showing how much of a degenerate he really is, running for the highest position in Texas. Will people pick up on that? I really hope so. But you don't need a foul-mouthed person in the governor's office. But be careful on who our friends are. Be careful of what we talk about and who we talk about and how we talk about them. You talk about somebody in Big Sandy, 80% of the people are related in Big Sandy. It's kind of big, huge amount of families. In my situation, the Shipmans, the Eatons, the Cases, the Edelbachs, the Jitjangs, the McNeelys. Oh, man, there's a whole bunch more of them. Anyways, the Petersons. There's a whole bunch of families that are all related, and now their kids are getting married. And, if you talk about somebody in Big Sandy, you don't know who you're talking about, whether it's going to get back to somebody's family or whatever. So in Big Sandy, you just don't talk about people. You just let it go. Just keep on going. But be careful who our friends are. Are we going to fly with the eagles? Are we going to, scurry through the brush with the turkeys? Iron sharpens iron. We become who our friends are. And again, it is like those dogs that end up looking like their owners, or it is the owners that look like their dogs, one or the other. I don't know. I just know it's true. Sometimes we look like our pets. We need to surround ourselves with people that help us succeed, both on a personal level and on a spiritual level. A little earlier, I stated that those that keep the teachings of the New Testament apostles had a hard time making close friends. Over the last part of this sermon, I want to close by talking about this. As Christians, we must differentiate between being a friend to the world and a friend of the world. First, we need to understand that we are not of this world. We're told that we are in the world. We should be light, but we're not of the world. 1 John 4 through 6. 1 John 4 through 6. Tells us, you are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. Christ is in us. We don't want Satan anywhere near us or in us. Verse 5 says, they are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world hears them. Verse 6 tells us, we are of God. He that knows God hears us. He that is not of God hears not us. Hereby know we the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. And like the song says, this world is not my own. I'm just passing through. This doesn't mean that we cannot have and be friends of this world. We are not of this world, yet we are the light of this world. We see that in Matthew 5, 14 through 16. Matthew 5, 14 through 16 tells us, you are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on the candlestick, and it gives light unto all that are in the house. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Last night, we had a little thunderstorm roll through, about 2 miles by 5 miles wide, and it knocked out the power in White Oak. All I could see was behind the trees a big, huge, bright light called the moon. So that was the only thing that we could see last night. And they finally got electric on about 7:20 this morning, finished up in White Oak. But that was the only thing. That should be you and I. A light into this world. To where when there's no light anywhere but darkness, what do they see? They see Christ in us, shining bright. In order to let our lights shine, and for men to see our good works, we have to show ourselves friendly to the world. We are called and chosen to be a friend to the world, and yet not of the world. Being a friend to the world does not mean we go and party with them. It doesn't mean that we go and sin with them. But like Jesus did, it does mean that we sit down in their house and we eat dinner with them. We need to be their friends. That means we cannot offend them. That means that they might not be our closest and most intimate friends, but we can still have close friends that are sinners, that trust and respect us. They can be sinners and do all sorts of despicable things, but still they trust and respect us. How else can we win them to the ways of God? They have to see something that they want. I want to be like you. I want to change. They have to let you know that so you can start saying, okay, here's what I do. And here's how it is. We need to stop being scared of the world. The Bible says, greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. Do you believe that? Do you believe that your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is stronger than Satan the devil? Sometimes we get scared of what's going on, and we don't put our trust into the one that can change everything. Jesus threw the entire religious community into uproar when He sat down and ate with publicans and sinners. Oh no! Now the world is doomed. Yet His only motivation was to call them to repentance. Mark 2, 16 through 17. Mark 2, 16 through 17. And when the scribes and Pharisees saw Him eat with publicans and sinners, they said unto His disciple, how is it that He eats and drinks with publicans and sinners? Verse 17, when Jesus heard it, He said unto them, they that are whole have no need for the physician. Sick, I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Things going out. How can we win our world unless we go into the world and pull the sinners off the streets? How can we get more people to God? We need to be showing and trusting God's way of life. Jesus was never timid about these things. He wasn't timid about eating with sinners and publicans, and we should act the same way that He acted. On one occasion, Paul had to correct himself on this subject. In 1 Corinthians 5, 9 through 11, 1 Corinthians 5, 9 through 11 tells us, I wrote unto you in an epistle not to company with fornicators. Oh, this is exactly opposite what Christ was doing. Yet not together with the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters, for then must your needs go out of the world. Verse 11, but now I have written unto you not to keep company if any man that is called a brother, not somebody in the world, but a brother, be a fornicator, or a covetousness, or an idolater, or a riler, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, not even eat with such a person. It doesn't talk about the world, it's talking about here. A believer. Paul was saying, I know I wrote to you before about not associating with fornicators, but I wasn't talking about the fornicators of this world. Look at it. This is what it says of this world. Paul was not addressing the unbelievers in this writing, but Paul said, I need to clear this up so you don't misunderstand me. Paul said it is fine to eat with an unbeliever who is a fornicator or adulterer or drunkard or extortioner. We would have to leave this world if we couldn't eat with them. We couldn't even go out and buy a meal, buy products from the store. Paul was not talking about the unbelievers. Then in verse 11, Paul says, I know that I have already wrote to you on this, but what I meant was that you are not to associate with anyone who claims to be a believer, yet still fornicates, still cheats, still gets drunk, and still worship idols. Do not even eat with such people. Somebody that is not even trying to live according to God's way of life, but sits and says, I am. Self-righteous, pompous. It says, I am one of you. And they're not. But it says, in other words, don't associate with hypocrites. What Paul was saying in this writing was, if you want to affect a sinner, if you want to change the heart of a fornicator, if you want to change the thinking of a cheater, if you want to see people added to the family of God, then you need to be their friend. If you want to win somebody to Christ, we must be their friend. If you want to affect people, we must be friendly as Christ was.